Welcome to Kava and Kettlebells, where we talk about Kava, fitness, and life. Let's get Kava-fied.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Kava and Kettlebells. This is Charles.
Hey guys, this is Heidi. Thank you so much for tuning back in. If you haven't already, please take 5 seconds. And if you like what you are hearing, go ahead and like us, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Kava_kettlebells. And just as a reminder, we do not monetize off this. We fund this completely by ourselves. So it really helps for you to just share the word, spread the word, subscribe, and like. So thank you. Let's get into the show. All right. So for the workout of the day, today I did leg day.
Leg day.
So as we've been talking about, I always start mine off with deadlifts. That's like a really intense exercise. So I always like to do the heaviest, most, the exercises that are going to take the most energy at the beginning of my workout. I am dealing with a potential hip labral tear, so I am not able to barbell back squat. I'm very limited in the flexion of my hip right now. I can hinge. I can do all the hinging, so I can work that posterior chain, but I'm very limited in my squatting. So I can do bodyweight box squats to kind of warm up. Then I do a barbell deadlift. I do some Romanian barbell deadlifts right after that. And then I just do a lot of booty movement. So then I did a staggered Romanian deadlift. I like to do that on the cable machine. Our gym has a single hamstring curl machine that I did. And then I like to do single leg box squats, which if you haven't tried them, they sound easy, real killer for the glutes and the core. So try that out. And then I ended with some walking, like calf raises. And I think that's all I did today.
You got to start. So when you talk about legs and booty, you got to start using the term dump truck.
Oh my gosh.
That's so my.
Oh my gosh. So I'm not going to lie. Like if you're a girl, like we all want a nice little peach, right? And mine has definitely grown over the years, which I'm very thankful for. But this dude is always like, beep, 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 like dump truck coming through. And I'm like, man, that doesn't sound very sexy.
No, it's an endearing compliment. So.
Oh yeah, real endearing.
Plus, like dudes growing up, we always like play like dump trucks and shit.
So yeah, today's dump truck day, I guess.
It was good. Yes. So I don't know. I think I see the term more like in the fitness. Because I do follow more like fitness stuff than you do.
Yeah. And
I see dump truck being used a lot more.
Yeah, I guess as a girl, we don't really like follow that. It's more like the guys, I think, do. So
no, it's not me following like fitness girls.
I know. But like the terms. Yeah. So I don't know. Well, maybe we'll put that up to a poll on our social media, our Instagram. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about dump truck? The term dump truck. But yeah, that was my leg day. They're kind of more glute focused these days. What'd you hit today?
So today for me was chest and triceps. You guys, if you heard my last episode, I do back and biceps together. And then for the rest of my body, so I'll just give you my split. So I do back and biceps, chest and tris, shoulders, legs, then usually like a day off, and then I repeat. So today was chest and tris. For me, for chest, I stick to dumbbell presses. I go in phases. Like we have a home gym, and my home gym, we have dumbbells up to 100 pounds, and we have the Iron Master dumbbells that go up to 135 pounds. So I can do dumbbells at home, but when I'm home, I like to emphasize like barbell bench or something.
Yeah, and at the gym, you do more dumbbells.
Yeah, and at the gym, I do more dumbbells. And just overall, though, I think dumbbells are better for contraction. And
it's also, it emphasizes your core more because you have to stabilize more in order to control those dumbbells.
Yeah. So yes, like I think barbell bench is great for strength and, both flat, incline, decline, all that. So when I do my presses, usually I'll do flat and I'll do incline. And then I like to do like dumbbell flies. That's one of my favorite exercises. And then I'm really big on push-ups and dips. I think that part of that is just coming from like even the military, like we always do like, shit ton of like push-ups all the time. So just kind of built into me. to like
I just think he likes to show off. He'll just like bust out the one arm push-ups and
one arm push-ups are like, they're really good for you.
Yeah, and he kills them. Like, I like him, and he looks good doing it. So,
and then for triceps, for me, usually triceps, I like to do a lot of like overhead type work. So, with the dumbbells, one arm overheads, and then, your typical like extensions, things like that. I feel like triceps too. That's kind of one where you got to focus on like, the outside, then also like kind of the inner part of the head. So I kind of try to hit like all angles of the tricep. And then, usually end up, with push-ups and dips kind of hit like both your chest and your tries.
All right. So those are our workouts for today. And so for today's episode, we wanted to get into the side effects of Kava. Yeah. We talked about what is Kava in our last episode. So today we want to kind of dive more into, the side effects. And let's, cut to the chase. There are none. Episode done. That was great.
So if you're all watching, go ahead and turn off YouTube because there are no side effects to Kava. Mic drop?
Yeah,
no mic.
Yeah, mic.
There it is.
There you go, mic drop. But no, there's, we just want to cover there with anything, and especially with overuse and overconsumption, you can have some negative side effects. But being real, like there are not a ton of side effects. Kava is not an addictive property. You can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to, our society is addicted to food. We are addicted to social media, our phones,
caffeine.
100%, hyper palatable food. But it's not addictive in the sense that if you use it daily and then you stop using it, you won't have any sort of withdrawals. And that's what we mean by Kava is not addictive. If you drink caffeine and coffee every day and you stop drinking it, you'll have withdrawals. Like you'll get headaches. You won't feel good. But that doesn't happen with Kava.
And I do want to say, going back to Heidi talking about the addictive piece of it. So yes, Kava has not been shown to be addictive, but we don't want you confusing this with the other botanical out there that's typically served with Kava, especially at Kava bars. It begins with a K and it ends with an M. And it rhymes with Tatum.
Yeah.
Like last episode.
If you're new to the botanical industry, that word is very sensitive and flagged. So we can't say it. But
we're doing it to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But there's a very popular plant out there that comes from Southeast Asia that's made as a tea. And a lot of times you'll see it in products with Kava. That is the plant that is responsible for the more addictive properties.
Yes.
We have our own opinions on that. We'll probably start getting to that more down the line. But Kava itself has been known to be non-addictive. But like Heidi was saying, I do think everything has potential for habit formation. So, you can habit form with anything. And then also, I do think things can be abused.
Absolutely.
And used out of moderation.
Yeah. And you shouldn't feel dependent on any sort of substance. And just because it doesn't have addictive properties, anything that you use daily can start to control you if you aren't careful. So, we are cautious about that. Don't get to the point where you are dependent on it, that you can't have a good time. You can't relax. You can't go to sleep. You can't calm down without the Kava. That's when you kind of need to reevaluate and have I become addicted to it? But just speaking generally, it does not have addictive properties. So
yeah. So let's kind of start talking about, again, kind of more of the common side effects that you're going to have when you're consuming Kava. And I do want to kind of stress there are some variations of these side effects depending on how you are ingesting it. So, for example, we're going to get into how Kava sometimes affects digestion. A lot more times, you're going to have more of those digestion issues with drinking the prepared drink of Kava.
So, like the meat is called the medium grind. When that root is ground up and you're preparing it like a traditional way versus like an extract. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or even like taking like Kava capsules. Okay. Like you're not going to really have a lot of the digestion, kind of effects that drinking, almost half a gallon of prepared coffee
Yeah,
going to give you.
for sure.
So with that, with that being said, let's kind of hit the first, like most common thing out there. And that's going to be the dehydration piece. So Kava is a, mild diuretic. What that means is, it's going to pull water from your body as you're consuming it. So you're going to be peeing a lot more.
Yeah.
You're also going to be potentially pooping a lot more when you drink Kava.
Which could be a good thing. Kind of like, I don't know, a lot of us wake up and have a cup of coffee to get things moving. And you can use Kava the same way. And again, everyone's body is different. So you need to figure out how your body is going to react to it. I don't really react to it that way. Charles does.
I do. So the direct piece of it, though, it's mild, but it's something that we always stress. Like when you're drinking Kava, you need to hydrate with it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you got to have some extra water with it. Or as I like to do, I like to have like electrolytes, and just making sure throughout the day that you're meeting your electrolyte requirement. Obviously your activity level and what you're doing and even where you're located at is going to have effects on this, right? So if you're here in South Florida in the middle of summertime, you're going to be expelling a lot of water if you're outside working all day. But if you're somewhere and you are like in an office environment and you are pretty low activity level, you're not expelling a lot of water, you're not going to be catching up as much as someone who's extremely active. So for us, we generally like to shoot for a gallon of water a day.
I definitely don't get as much as Charles, but I try and stay very hydrated, but I also don't sweat as much as Charles. So I don't think I need as much. So he gets a full gallon. I definitely not quite that much, but yeah, you really need to prioritize your hydration if you are going to regularly, be drinking Kava.
And again, a lot of electrolytes you can get through if you have like a well-balanced diet, which I know when I say that, everyone's like, oh, grown, like he's going to lecture me on like what to eat. I mean that by, yes, I understand we don't live in a perfect world. Every day your diet might not be on point. But overall, right, you want to shoot for the 80-20 rule. You want to be getting the nutrients that you need every day. And that includes some electrolytes through food and through salt. So make sure your bases are covered. And then when you go into drinking Kava, just keep in mind that you might become dehydrated more with more drinking of it. Because again, it's a mild diuretic. So just keep in mind, again, you got to compensate a little bit for some of that water loss.
And you brought up a really good point about sodium. So sodium gets so much hate. And the reason that sodium gets hate and you see things that are, encourage low sodium is really just processed food. Like if you have a super processed diet, like your diet is a ton of processed food has a ton of sodium.
Yep.
If you eat whole foods, you aren't getting a ton of sodium, but you need sodium. Like sodium is essential for your body to process that water and actually hydrate you. So a lot of times, some people will find that they get headaches the more water they drink, and that's a great sign that you are not getting enough sodium. What I tell my clients, if you're starting to drink extra water and you get a headache, just grab something salty. Even just put some salt in water and take a little shot of it. You can get liquid IV packets, electrolyte packets, and just have some nuts. Just add some salt. Don't be afraid of adding salt to your food. Especially if you have a predominantly whole food diet, you need to salt it. So, drink the salt, stay hydrated, eat the salt, and that will help you stay hydrated.
Salty.
Salty.
But yes, going back to the saltiness. So even like before I work out, I make sure that I get some type of either electrolyte powder in, or what I'll do, typically I'll have like yogurt and oats. I'll even salt those a little bit with like Himalayan pink salt just to give myself that sodium, because when you go to your workout, it does help like with the muscle contractions, especially if you're nice and hydrated, it helps that pump too.
Makes those muscles look better.
Yeah. All right. So hydration is key and crucial when you're drinking Kava. grab an extra cup of water when you're having your kava session, or, have whatever electrolyte drink powder of your choice afterwards, before whatever. Just make sure you're getting your nutrients in there.
Yeah. So another side effect, or, I don't even like to say side effect, but another feeling that can happen when you drink too much kava is you can have some tummy troubles. If you're drinking too much, or, we'll talk in other episodes about the difference between traditional kava versus instant kava. And especially if it is an instant kava where it's basically you're just drinking the actual root, you can start to feel a little nauseous or have tummy trouble. So that's something that's again, your body's way of telling you you've had enough. And so it's really hard to overdrink kava because your body will tell you, calm down, you're done.
Yeah, but so the nausea with kava though is a real thing. So if you're drinking too much kava too quickly, or you are having it either, I would say, too close to a meal, like after eating, especially too, it can cause some nausea. But we'll say this all the time, like kava is a very forgiving plant in the sense that it's going to let you know when you're getting close to your boundary. So when you are drinking kava, if you do feel a little bit of that nausea, creeping up on you, it's telling you to stop. So don't push it. Don't keep going. Respect the root, and that nausea will subside. And a lot of times too, what can help when you're drinking kava is to have, ginger, whether it's like a ginger chew or a ginger capsule, or I guess you can even just eat ginger.
Well, yeah. And Charles is like one of the weird people who doesn't like peppermint. He doesn't even like mint toothpaste, which is a little crazy. But peppermint, he would never dare do this, but you could just pop a peppermint into your mouth, or even chew on some gum. And that can help as well. Just kind of settle your stomach if you're feeling a little bit nauseous.
Yeah. So nausea can be something to look out for. Again, that's more if like you're consuming too much kava. And then some of the stomach troubles, though, it kind of goes in a little bit of the next side effect, is some of the digestion issues that kava can have. And this plays into a bit of, yes, it's a diuretic, so it gets things moving. Now, I see this actually more as a beneficial side effect to an extent, because, I'll be honest, it's nice sometimes having kava, because if I'm constipated, if I have a couple of shells of kava, it gets things moving. Well,
and it's just really important to be regular. And that's one thing, we've talked about, other supplements and stuff to help you. And if kava is that thing that can help you, it's really important that you're regular. And I know some people will say that they only poop every 3 days, and that's not healthy. And it happens to people, but it's really important for you to have a bowel movement every day. And if that's something you struggle with, then kava can be something that can, definitely help.
And on the flip side of that though, and I've gotten this with certain type of kavas, I know for a fact there are certain kavas I cannot drink because they give me the runs, because it takes it too far, right? So, and this is personal to me, but there's a lot of anecdotal accounts out there where people have, diarrhea and, just let's call it what it is, like the runs from kava. And sometimes it's just due to the cultivar that it is might not be working with their body, or even the way it's prepared, it might be really strong, or if it's instant kava or micronized kava. So micronized kava is just the root itself. It's just ground up really, really, really fine, and you just mix it with water. Versus traditional kava, you take the kava itself, that ground up root, you put it into a strainer bag and you squeeze it, and it makes kind of that muddy water.
Kind of similar to how you would make tea.
Yeah. Now, micronized kava, you're going to run into more side effects with the digestion of it, because you're actually ingesting that plant matter. And so for some people, it can either cause constipation, or for others, like me, sometimes if I have too much micronized kava, I know that, TMI, but it's going to be getting things moving too fast and too much. And be going through some toilet paper.
Yeah, might not be able to trust if that is a fart or something else might happen. But again, that's another example of even though that happened to Charles for one cultivar that he drank, or, a certain instant that he drank, that may not happen to you. You just need to try it out and see how each one is going to affect you. So it's very personal. Everyone is different, but that is a possible side effect, definitely.
Yeah. And with that too, we like to have Kava on a fairly empty stomach. Now
not completely empty. Like, you should have had some food that day, but not recently.
Yeah. But for us though, we're eating like every 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's not because we don't think like our muscles will fall off if we don't eat every 3 hours. It's because we eat a lot of food throughout the day to meet our macro goals. And it's just easier for us to eat more meals versus like 3 massive meals.
Yeah.
It just digests better with us. So with that being said, usually I'll wait at least like an hour after eating to have Kava. There's a lot of stuff out there where people say that you have to fast like all day long in order to get the effects of Kava, or it's going to hit you harder.
And you could play around with that. I'm not encouraging that necessarily, but it might hit you harder, but we don't think you need to. Like, it's not necessary to feel the effects of Kava, but if you want to play around with that, like, that's on you.
It'll hit you quicker, but it's not gonna be this like more profound experience of fasting. And really, and this goes back to some of the side effects, the mental side effect, right? So if you're revolving your whole day around Kava and you're switching your whole diet and routine just to squeeze out an extra 10% of the effects of Kava,
that's when you know there's your sign. You might be addicted.
You may not addicted, but you might be being too consumed with it, right?
Yes.
And that's, again, goes back to that habit forming piece where, yes, you can build some, maybe not beneficial routines around drinking Kava.
Yeah, I like the way you phrase it. Not addictive, but you don't want to be consumed by it. Like, it's a great addition to your life, but you don't want your life to revolve around that. You don't need to plan out all your events and your entire day around when you're going to drink your Kava. You also don't need to be super particular about the timing. Like, we've had a lot of people message us. It's like, I ate 57 minutes ago. Like, is it okay if I have some Kava? And it's like, oh, you're cutting it close.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
But it's like, no, like, that's fine. And again, it's just your body. Like, maybe you can eat 30 minutes and then, go drink it and you're cool. Like, you just got to play around with it. You can also chase Kava. Like, especially in the beginning, it was really hard for me to drink Kava, and I always had to chase it with fruit. And that's okay. Like, you can eat some little things while you're drinking Kava. You just don't want to have a big meal. You don't want to have some, eggs and bacon and pancakes and, with a side of Kava.
So you're saying don't have like a porterhouse steak
yes.
with your Kava stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is both the drowsiness and sometimes the almost like anxiety, kind of racy feeling that Kava could give you, depending on the cultivar that you take. So you might see drowsiness as a benefit, but I also can see it as a side effect, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Depending on the type of day, depending on what you're doing, being too drowsy from something like Kava can definitely be a detriment, right? So going back to our previous episode, we were talking about, driving after Kava. Yes, most people can go to a Kava bar, have some shells of Kava, and drive just fine. But, if Kava is something that makes you super, super drowsy and, kind of out of it, then that's where you got, use your spidey senses. Might not be good to go drive, or might not be good to, have a really, really heavy Kava that's going to make you really drowsy, before you start your workday.
Yeah, exactly. Now, spidey senses, I don't know if you said that ironically, but that was my nickname growing up, Spidey Heidi. So
that's right.
I have amazing spidey senses. but yeah, like, and it's one of those things that, again, it's your body. You just have to be conscious of, how much have you had, and are you in the right space to be driving? And typically speaking, people are, but if it was just you weren't paying attention and you're just slinging back the shells and you feel out of it, like, get an Uber. Like, don't risk getting, behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, even just like when I'm too tired, like, we all know, like, you've been driving before, or try to do something, do a task when you're really tired, it's not the best thing. But I do want to go back.
It's not worth it.
I want to go back to the Spidey Heidi thing.
Spidey Heidi,
you gotta explain why you had the nickname.
I mean, it just rhymed with Heidi, but I did, I feel I'll go through weird phases, right? I did go through a weird phase where I would wear, like, little boys board shorts, and and they were like Spider-Man, and so I think that's how that's how I got the nickname. But I think it just rhymed with Heidi, so people call me Spidey Heidi.
Yeah, there's not much that rhymes with Heidi.
Yeah, so.
But cool. Well, so that's the drowsiness piece, and again, you might see drowsiness as a benefit. For me personally, I see the drowsiness as a benefit because I primarily drink kava in the evening. You know, I'm not going out. I'm at home. The most I'm going to do is have dinner, hang out with Heidi, and go to bed. Right.
That is a good point, though. Going back to kind of the nausea as well. So nausea is typically if you drink too much, or if you drink it too close to food, or for me, I would feel nauseous if I would drink kava and try and be active in any sense. So whether that's, people ask if kava is a good pre-workout. It's not. It's good post-workout, but I would not encourage you to drink kava and then go work out. I wouldn't encourage you to, if you're going to drink kava and go on a hike, that could be great, but give yourself some time to let that digest, or sexy time. Like, that's what we've run into is, we'll down some kava. And for me, I need some time to let that settle before, we go to the bedroom.
It's because the boat's rocking, sloshing things around the belly.
Yeah. And so that I felt nausea in situations like that. And again, just listen to your body, and you just got to play around with it, figure out the timing that's going to work best for you, and write that down in your notebook, and you're good.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So on the opposite of the drowsiness, some kava cultivars can sometimes actually increase anxiety. They can increase kind of that almost that, feeling of almost like you took caffeine. Now, kava, it's not stimulating, but sometimes if you have a very heady kava, not heavy, a more heady one.
So heady being more of a mind and more of a daytime kava.
And with that, some of that can be a side effect because, it is known sometimes people get a little anxiety from drinking a really heady kava because it's kind of this head rush at first. Eventually it'll subside, so it goes away, but it's probably not the best thing you want to be drinking, before bed, or, before something where you want to be a little bit more, chill and relax. Maybe go for more of a balanced cultivar or a heavy cultivar.
And anxiety it's tricky because a lot of people drink kava to help with their feelings of anxiety. Now, this is not a, medical recommendation. If you have diagnosed anxiety, definitely talk to your doctor. We are not encouraging you to get off any sort of prescriptions that you're on, but there are a lot of people who use kava as a tool for their anxiety, but it can have the opposite effect, like Charles said. So that's just something to be aware of, when it comes to anxiety.
Yeah, it kind of even reminds me of caffeine. So it's known that for a lot of people with anxiety, you kind of want to stick away from caffeine because it increases the heart rate, increases that fight or flight response. But, for me personally, if I have, and I don't want to talk about, my stimulant tolerance because I've abused it. But for me, I don't get anxiety from caffeine. In a lot of ways, actually, when I have caffeine, especially not in the form of coffee, but in the form of caffeine anhydrous, like a caffeine capsule, or with pre-workout, with other nootropics and stimulants in it, I actually get an anxiety relief feeling because I like that feeling of caffeine. I like that stimulant.
It kind of brings you down, your baseline.
So it's energizing me and focusing me. It actually helps my anxiety. So I get the opposite. I don't get anxiety from caffeine.
Yeah.
It actually helps me feel more centered, grounded, focused, and ready to go, knock out the park.
Lift heavy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, everyone's different. You just gotta, kind of play around with your body and figure it out. Now, one side effect that we did not touch on, which is honestly the most immediate side effect and scares people, but it's very common. It's a good sign. It means like you got a good kava, is the numbing sensation of your tongue. Yep. And that is
your whole mouth, your lips.
Yeah, you'll feel numb. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like what did I just drink? Totally normal. We kind of joke when people for the first time, they're like, I feel numb. We're like, all right, that's a good one then. You got a good shell of kava. So every cultivar is different. So the effects of that numbing are different depending on how long you've used it and the cultivar, but it is totally normal. So don't let that freak you out either.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, because I know you all, if you never used kava before, you're going to go out there, you're going to Google, is kava bad for me? And you're going to see all the stuff out there about liver. So the liver health, right? Obviously, go do all your own research, right? Go talk to doctors, talk to people in the kava space who've used kava, talk to the cultures who have used kava for hundreds of years out in the Pacific Islands, right? But the most recent research out there has debunked the myth that kava messes with your liver. Now, if you have existing liver problems, or if you are combining kava with substances that affect your liver and your liver enzymes, you might potentially run into a problem.
Absolutely. And that is, it's really important. When you go to kava bars, you really need to rely on like your kava tender to help educate you. And you cannot mix kava and alcohol. And again, our body is so great with kava at telling us, like this is a bad idea. If you're drunk and you try and drink kava, your body won't let you. It'll just make it come right up. And so like kava bars will run into that, where people will come in and they suspect that they're drunk and they can't serve them kava because it doesn't mix well. And when you Google all these issues and these reports, it's always people who had accidents, situations happen, and they were loaded on alcohol. They found kava in their system, but they also found a lot of other drugs and alcohol. And so you cannot blame the kava. You just can't mix kava. Shouldn't mix any of those substances. Right.
Or those, some of the studies on liver health, it will, take people with a history of alcohol abuse or combining alcohol or already liver issues.
Like they've already damaged their liver.
Yes.
And they don't have a well-functioning liver.
But like I mentioned, the current data right now, and there's actually that report that was released last year that pretty much debunked the liver issue. Now, obviously, like get blood work done, get your
Absolutely.
liver enzymes checked and everything like that. And I mean, I do that personally. I get my liver done, my blood work done, and I see my liver values every 3 months. And my values have never been affected from kava. Now, I understand I am one individual and I have my own lifestyle and my own, things and everything like that. So that is specific to me. But again, the most current research out there is showing that kava is safe for consumption and is safe for the liver to process.
And it's really funny too, because we'll have people who will like ask us, they'll ask us about kava and they're like, I've heard it's bad for your liver. Meanwhile, this is the same person who is very vocal about drinking alcohol every day and like having a bottle of wine every day. And I'm like, right. You seem super concerned about your liver, and that's just to say that liver is terrible. I'm sorry, alcohol is terrible for your liver. And so if you drink alcohol regularly, you shouldn't be afraid at all about kava. It is going to be so much better for your body, so much better for your liver than alcohol.
Right. Or even people don't think twice about popping a Tylenol.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible for you.
So, kava, again, this is something that's been used for hundreds of years over in the Pacific and Polynesian islands. And, these cultures have used this in their life for a long, long, long time, right? And I'm not, obviously different cultures in different parts of the world, sometimes they acclimate different, to the region, the food, how they do things. So I'm not saying that just because one group of people didn't have issues with it doesn't mean another group won't. But in general, right? I mean, we believe here, at Kava Kettlebells that the most natural things are probably the best for you versus more synthetic options. And, Kava is one of those things that it has so many benefits, so little side effects that if you're afraid of trying it, I mean, I get that,
It's different. It's new.
Yeah,
I get that. You're nervous, that's normal, but you don't need to be afraid.
You don't. You really don't. It's a very safe and gentle substance. Again, Kava is going to let you know when you've taken it too far. The side effects, they're mild. I want you, to kind of think about this. Look out for kind of the triggers, right? So if you know that Kava upsets your stomach and messes with your belly, then you gotta just be intentional about it, right? Make sure you're eating bland foods around it. Make sure you're drinking more water in case you do have loose stool and you're losing it. So you have to work it out for yourself. You have to see what cultivars work for you. Have to see kind of what eating schedule around Kava works for you, what time of day, all that kind of stuff. But I promise you, if you give it a chance, if you break through the reverse tolerance to where you're feeling the Kava and you're feeling the nice effects, those side effects, they're going to be so minimal and so gentle that, it's not going to be a big factor for you.
Yeah. So we, joke around, but we often say that Kava it's like a miracle botanical, and, you can make that decision for yourself, but it has really just been such a blessing to our life with very, very, very minimal side effects, and yeah, I think I'm just so excited we found it, and I think it's amazing.
But as always, let us know, reach out if y'all have questions on, your own concerns about it. We'll try to hook you up, or if anything, we'll try to send you in the right direction or find the right study out there specific to Kava that might provide some better insight that we can't.
All right, guys, let's end with a bula.
All right. Bula.
Bula.